Good morning, everybody. I'm in the Philippines right now, so it's morning here. Sorry, where you are, it may be evening, but good morning anyway. Today we're going to talk about some of the many questions that are being asked by Filipinos and some expats as well. And instead of me explaining it, because what do I know? You know, I'm just one of you guys, right? So I thought I would bring in the real estate agent, broker, who became a friend of mine, and she actually assisted me in getting this condominium at the MCI. So let's take a look at it. That's what we'll talk about. Stay with me. I'd like to introduce, how do you want to be called? Pam or Sue?
Sue, sir.
Sue Openano. Oh, I've been calling you Pam.
It's okay, sir. Pam or Pam Sue.
Okay. There are several questions and I prepared a list because there's a lot of things we are going to cover. So, to start with, Sue, how do you go through the process of looking for a home? Just how do you start? So you decided you want to come to the Philippines, want to buy or own a home, you don't want to rent. How do you start the process?
If I am the broker of that client, my initial questions would be, I would be asking them if the purpose of their buying the property. So generally, there are two purposes that they would tell us. One is they're buying it for investment, and then the other one is they're buying it either for retirement or it's where they want to build or grow their family. So they're going to use it as for end use or for investment.
Okay.
So that's the start, sir.
Okay. Now, but how do you go about choosing a developer if it's a new building or new house, or an agent to help you in the search?
Normally, sir, if the client is abroad, it would help if they would do their own research first.
Okay.
So nowadays, home buyers are very lucky that technology has provided information online already. So they could do initial research online. If they already have a location in mind, they would just type it on Google and then search for developers available in the area. Once they come here in the Philippines, they could go to the developer sales office and check on the model units. Because basically, so when you look for a developer, you're not looking for something that would give you just for status quo. This is a big developer, they're going to give me a good property. It's not like that because there are certain requirements that you have in buying, and it might not be available in that property that they have built. So you have to go and check the model units that are available. And from there, normally the sales office usually have sets of agents whom they will introduce to you. So you could initially talk to them or attend open houses because during open house there are several agents. So you could really choose whose agent would help you choose the property that you want.
Okay. Like in my case, when I first started looking, I didn't know whether I want to stay in Manila, I want to stay in Davao, Cebu, blah, blah, blah. So if you remember, when I started searching in Manila, only because I'm Manila born, but still, I was not familiar about Pasig. I knew about Quezon City, Luneta, Quiapo. That's about it. I don't know Pasig, Mandaluyong. I don't know any of that. But so you look at the map and you say, gee, it's not too far from each one. So it really doesn't matter. I also went to, and she knows that, I went to Davao to look at the properties in Davao because of what I heard about Davao. You may have heard some about Cebu. You may want to look into that. But as she said, you have to do your own research initially. Then you go and see an agent. Now, is there a dual agency in the Philippines? A dual agency means you're representing both the buyer and the seller.
Actually, sir, in the Philippines, it's not an issue whether you represent both the buyer and the seller. Most of the time, you'll be surprised, most of the home buyers would like to just have one negotiator in the transaction. they would want to limit the negotiator to just one agent and not talk to as many agents. So the transaction would be, they think that the transaction would be smooth in that way.
Okay, so the difference between the US and the Philippines is in the US, usually you're talking to an agent, your agent will talk to another agent, will talk to her or his client. And the buyer and the seller don't meet until settlement time. What I understand you saying is that in the Philippines, it's really preferred that you get the buyer and the seller to meet together, even to negotiate, to discuss things and such, to ask questions. There is no sensitivity, so it is not an issue here in the Philippines.
Generally, it's not an issue, sir.
Okay, okay. In general, what are the advantages of condominium over the house and lot, and vice versa?
Okay. So when you buy a condominium unit, sir, you expect that the location of that condominium is in the central business districts.
Okay.
That should be near your places of interest for work, for offices, and it should have lower prices than buying a house and lot. They have friendlier payment terms than buying a house and lot. So if I may cite an example, if you have a budget of 10 million and you want to buy a property and you are eyeing for a Makati area or a central business district area, you cannot buy that house and lot in Makati. You can only buy a condominium unit. So it's way cheaper to buy a condominium than buying a house and lot. The second advantage is, of course, condominium units have property management office that takes care of the maintenance and the security of the building. Most of the condominiums also offer amenities such as pool, gym, function rooms that you could use in the condominium. What are the others? I think generally those are the advantages.
I guess one of the biggest things that people are against condominium is this monthly maintenance fee.
Yes, sir.
One thing they don't realize is if you don't have that, you have expensive maintenance of the home.
Correct.
The roof goes bad, this thing goes bad, that thing goes bad. You just don't see it because it's in lump sum, whereas in the condominium, you will be paying every month, whether there is a repair or not, every month a certain condominium fee. And they see that, but they don't see what it is like not to have that.
Yes, correct, sir.
Are foreigners allowed to buy condominium or house and lot?
Foreigners are allowed to buy condominium units, sir, as long as the condominium corporation has not reached more than 40% ownership for foreigners.
Okay.
It should still have 60% ownership for Filipinos.
Okay. But not house and lot?
Yes, not house and lot.
No. I also heard that in the case of house and lot, his partner, let's say, can own the lot because the foreigner is not allowed to own the lot, but then the foreigner can build a house in his name. But what good is it if it's sitting on a lot that is not owned by him, right? So, oh well, so much said. How could a foreigner protect their interest if they cannot buy and own land in their name?
To be honest, sir, there's really no protection for foreigners if they want to buy a house and lot in the Philippines.
Okay.
But I would suggest they contact or they get the service of a lawyer so that they could have internal arrangements with her partner on the ownership of the property.
Okay. Well, some people say you can form a corporation with you and your wife, let's say, your spouse, and let the corporation buy the house and lot. This way your name is on the corporation, on the title of the corporation. Is that adequate protection? Or is that just a workaround?
It's a workaround, sir.
It's only a workaround. Now, can you discuss the process of buying real estate from signing of the agreement of sale to closing and to receipt of the title? How long does it take the property to buy the property? How long does it take to get the title to the property? And is financing available? So that's a lot of questions. So the first thing is, talk to to me about the process. How long does it take to buy the property?
Actually, sir, it's different when you buy a property. The process is different when you buy a property from a developer and when you buy from an individual. When you buy a property from a developer, usually the first process would be reservation. So you would pay a reservation fee and you are given 30 days to decide on which payment term or what kind of payment facility you will be using to purchase that property.
Okay.
So on the duration of the 30 days, you agree with your agent or your broker, and then they prepare the document. The developer prepares the document for you. You sign them and then you submit them to the developer. It takes about 30 to 60 days to finish the whole process with the developer.
Okay. Did you say it takes 60 days?
It's the usual
30 to 60
turnaround time,
days.
sir, because for the developer to process the documents, they would need to submit the documents from one department to another to secure signatures for the contract. And then if you're gonna buy a property from an individual and it's with title already, the process starts with a negotiation between your brokers, of course. And then you will be the one to dictate the timeline. Usually, the timeline, sir, is 90 days from the reservation until the title transfer.
About 90 days. This is not on my list, but I just remembered something else.
What?
Somebody said in the Philippines, not all properties are titled. So if you have an untitled property, that it's adequate to use the real estate tax assessment that you have been paying, or the owner or alleged owner has been paying over the years. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, okay. So you're buying a property that is not yet titled, sir.
No title. So the owner does not have a title, but he has all
The
these.
tax receipts for the real property tax that he's been paying for a long time.
Correct. Is that legal?
Well, since Philippines is a developing country still, sir, there are really lots of properties here that are not yet titled. So what you do, especially if you're a foreigner, there are real estate brokerages who offers due diligence services. So you hire them and then you pay them to do the due diligence for the property. So they check on the background, the original owners of the property.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yes.
But by the way, that is equivalent to our title insurance company in the United States. The title insurance company is the one that does all the research, and then they ensure that that person is the owner. If later somebody comes up and says they're the owner, they will defend. They're covered by the insurance.
Oh.
So it's a real estate broker who does that?
There are individual real estate brokers who offers those services, and there are brokerage firms who offers also those services.
Okay.
Because the firms most of the time already have their legal counsels internally with them, so they do that for you. And then at the end of the due diligence, they will discuss to you that it's a good buy. They recommend for you to buy it, and then they will also be the one who will process the title for you.
Okay. The other question is financing. Is it available for retired people? Because I got some information that once you reach a certain age, you cannot borrow any money anymore in the Philippines, unlike the United States.
The eligibility, sir, for applying for a home loan for the properties that you bought is until age 65. So for example, you're age 60 and you want the bank to finance the property that you purchased, you only have 5 years maximum payment term to fulfill the obligation of payment.
So that makes sure I understand that. So if you're already 60 years old, you're still eligible.
Yes, you're
But
still
since
eligible.
the eligibility stops at 65,
65.
they will give you a 5-year term.
Correct, sir.
You can no longer get a 30-year term.
No, unless, sir, you have you want to include. This is also a workaround. If it's okay to include your children, or for example, your eldest son in the title, and he's only 30 years old, then you're eligible to to have the property be financed by the bank for the maximum 20 or 25 years.
But then if that is the case, will they take into account the earnings of the child, of the younger child? For example, let's say I have a lot of money, but not quite enough, so I need some financing, right? Then I bring in my son, young, but no job,
Okay.
no income. Is that going to work or not?
It's not, sir.
Okay, so he has to have
I forgot to
income.
mention, he has to have income.
Okay.
Because his income will be the will be the basis for the approval of the loan.
Okay. Well, for practical purposes then, if you owe, you retired, you better have some cash.
Yes.
Okay. Is buying real estate tax subject to VAT, value-added tax? Or is it already included in the price? How does that get paid
Okay.
if there is VAT?
Again, sir, if you're buying from a developer, some developers would include VAT in the purchase price already. There's actually a threshold. For example, the property is just 1.5 M. It's usually not yet VATable.
Okay.
Now, if you're buying from an individual, and that individual owns the property in a central business district, and it's now a commercial area, even if the title says it's a residential area, but the area now is already a highly commercialized area, the BIR might categorize it as an ordinary asset. If the BIR says it's already an ordinary asset because it's situated in a commercial area and that they have learned that you have been leasing out the property to earn income, then they would charge you for ordinary asset tax. So it's not going to be capital tax that you're going to pay. So it's going to have additional taxes on you.
So who pays that?
It should be the seller, sir, because they own the property.
Okay. So to be sure, if you're buying an existing property, check with the broker, or check with the real estate broker or lawyer about that. Now, when it comes to developers, condominiums, things like that, usually it's already included in the price.
Yes, in such a manner that it's in the computation sheet, sir, because once they release the contract to sell, they don't normally put it in the provision on the purchase price. But if you sign the computation sheet, it's there.
Okay. Capital gains tax. Capital gains in the Philippines is not really tax on capital gains. It's tax on the gross sale price of real estate. I don't know why they call it capital gains. But who pays capital gains tax? Buyer or seller? Or is it negotiable?
The default, sir, is really the seller because he's the one who sold the property. He is expected to be the one who gained over the sale of the property. But it's negotiable, sir, yes.
Okay. But when you say negotiable, let's say I negotiated that the buyer will be the one to pay. We close the deal, we went to settlement, and the buyer does not pay the tax. Will the government run after the seller or after the buyer?
Technically, sir, you will not be able to transfer the property to your name if you don't pay the tax. So it's a
guaranteed pay because obviously the buyer will want to make sure he gets the title.
Yeah, so if you want to get the title named after to you, so you have to pay the tax.
Okay, so how does that get paid? Because maybe it's part of the process that you have to get a receipt from the BIR, etc., etc.
Once you already have the deed of absolute sale, you present it to BIR or the Bureau of Internal Revenue. You have them assess it and they will give you the computation for the tax.
Okay.
So once you're paid with that tax, which is the capital gains tax, and then there's an additional payment which is the documentary stamp tax.
Okay.
Then they issue you the certificate. That says that the sale has already been taxed and has been paid. So you could already transfer it to your name.
Okay. Now, given that I'm sure the process takes a little while, this one I'm going to answer myself because I'm getting mixed information. I checked with my bank because a lot of you is thinking of later selling the house, getting the money, and bringing it back to the U.S. Okay? Either to your children, grandchildren, or whatnot, or you yourself may want to go back to the US, like me. So I checked with the bank, and the bank said, you need to show where the money came from, meaning the deed of sale, you sold the house, and that the capital gain tax has been paid. I checked with BDO when I opened a bank account at BDO 3 years ago or 4 years ago. They said the same thing. But just this week, they have a new manager, and I checked with the manager. And I said, is it still the same, or is there a change? Because Philippines is known to change things all the time. Well, he said, you don't really need to show capital gains tax return. You can just show the deed of sale, and your money can go to the Philippines. No restriction as to the amount. That's what I was told. So I gave that answer to this question because I just got the information direct from the bank. Now, is there anything else peculiar in the Philippine real estate transactions? This is the last question. Is there anything else peculiar in the Philippine real estate transaction that are not common compared to other countries? For example, bribery.
Well, we don't really call it that way.
Okay. What is it called? Grease money?
It's better nowadays, or negotiation fee. With the kind of attitude that Filipinos have, we usually are very grateful when someone when the person is kind to us. So if they give in to our request, so for example, we ask for a shorter processing time and then they give in to that request, we Filipinos are normally very giving. So as a way to thank that person, we normally give a little to them.
Okay.
So that we could, when we go back to them and we have another transaction, it would be easier to transact with them, because that's I think that's a Filipino trait.
Okay. I'll put the contact information of Pam Sue Openano at the end of this video. I'm sure they should feel free to contact you if they have any questions, okay? And she's going to be very happy to help you in whatever you need in terms of any real estate transaction here in the Philippines. Now, if you are in the US, you may want to contact her via email. Do you still use Viber?
Yes, sir. I still do have
Viber or local phone if you want to pay the long distance. But you can use Viber and contact her, or by email. And she'll be glad to work with you. Anything else you want to add?
Very grateful, sir, to have you as one of my first clients in real estate.
Oh yeah, let me tell you a story about that. When I was looking for a real estate agent, I think I contacted 4 or 5, okay, 4 or 5, of which Sue is one of them. Now, believe it or not, one of the real estate agents, also of TMCI, tried to scam me. I only spoke with him twice, and already he is asking for money because allegedly his mother is sick, is overseas, blah, blah, blah. It's very obvious scam, okay? So be very careful about that. So I did not want to select only one because the person I hire, I may not be happy with. So I met with Sue when I was in the Philippines, and I asked her the question. I said, how long have you been in real estate? She said, bago lang po. I'm still new. I like that answer. I like that because she's honest. In the United States, I've been in real estate in the US, and a lot of people are trying to conceal the fact that they're just starting out. They pretend to know everything. She did not pretend to know everything. I had some questions. She did not have the answer. She said, let me get back to you on that. She gets the right answer, comes back with the right information. That is what I want about brokers or real estate agents. Nobody knows everything. So if you don't know, say you don't know. Okay? And the fact that she said right away, oh, I'm still new, I like that. Of course, I can afford to do that because I have some background in real estate. Okay, if you don't, then you might get scared, you know. But if you have some knowledge of real estate, how things are done, you have transacted several things in the US, you still need a real estate agent in the Philippines because it is different. Very different. So don't pretend like you know everything. I never did.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? So, thank you very much for watching. I will appreciate it if you share this with other people. And please do subscribe to my channel unless you have already done so. And do click like, okay? Thank you so much. Make it a great day and God bless.